Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very big welcome to Lecture 9. We're almost ready and going to the final race to be able to get towards the end. And we will be continuing to talk about the Agile methodology in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to start engaging in a number of aspects relating to the comparisons between Agile, if you want, and the traditional project management approach. Which I believe will be very, very relevant for your final exam. We also are going to be talking about the assessment today in the tutorial, allowing again to be able to work further on completing as much as you can out of that, that assessment that you guys are working on. But today we are going to be talking about the, Agile project management, managing for success, mainly, which is chapter 4. And also I've just picked up a few other resources from another textbook. But mainly what am I going to be talking about today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking about the productivity tools for the modern team. I'm going to talk about how do we prepare to be agile while we're working on agile project management. And we'll talk about using Kanban, which is obviously something that you guys are going to be using as part of your assessment. And you guys have started working on it. We're going to obviously talk a bit more about all of these aspects that you started applying as part of your assessment. And you will continue to be applying to a level that is considered appropriate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I start, have you seen this image before? Have you seen it before?
Yes, sir. The iteration process of Agile project management.
Perfect.
Yes,
could you explain it to me, please? What did I try to explain to you last week with this specific slide?
It is a methodology that starts with planning, designing, developing, testing, and evaluating the iterations.
Let's start on the left. What's on the left?
Design. Plan.
On the left here. What's this? What's this here?
Initial requirements.
So what is that? What is that called? So you guys are doing the same thing for me in your assessment. What are you doing in your assessment?
We are getting the requirements and we are getting the initial requirements, and after that we are dividing our schedule, and we are making the app according to it.
So you're getting the initial requirements, that's correct. How were we writing the requirements last week in the tutorial? How were you writing them? What format? What format? You've started writing nurse requirements last week in your tutorial. I said you need to do 3 things. What are they?
Was it the user stories?
Correct. How did you write them?
What should be required and what should have to be done by.
Yeah, but the format, how did we write them? I explained to you a format last week.
Identify the user.
As a, I explained we started as a, what?
As a user, I want to log in the system because.
So that
I can achieve something. Okay. So as a user, that's a user. I want to do something so that I can achieve something. And that's really what you need to go and actually write down. So you're writing your user stories. Now, these user stories, you see this initial requirements here, anybody knows what's the other name it's called in a Agile framework? What this initial requirement, what is it called? Product what?
Backlog.
We're creating a product backlog. So this is my product backlog. My product backlog contains all of these user stories that we're trying to go and actually work on to be able to deliver an outcome. That's correct. Now, could you tell me what is this? This one here specifically. What is this? Could you tell me what is this? This one here?
I think this is the first sprint.
Okay, so that's the first sprint. So what happened? The Agile team will come, we'll look at all of these backlog. We'll say, all right, let's look at everything there. What do we want to go and deliver first? And then you say, okay, we want to deliver 1. That's fine. They might choose to deliver 7 first. They might choose to deliver 8 first. They might choose to deliver anything. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, that doesn't mean that's the order of how the work needs to be done. Because every one of these user story is a functionality. You might choose to deliver functionality number 7 before you deliver functionality number 1. But once you choose the functionality you would like to go and work on, you take it, you start working on it. Planning, designing, developing, testing, evaluating. And then eventually you're going to go and deploy something that you've went and actually worked on. But this story or feature you're working on, you work on it in 1 iteration, or you work on it in 1 specific sprint. So that's what we've explained last week in summary about the, if you want, the Agile framework. Now today we're going to drill into a bit more details. We're going to talk about a number of more aspects. We're going to talk about how do you develop various things in practice, and we'll explain them so that you guys will be able to apply them down the track. So we will discuss 3 major types of productivity tools for Agile development programs. There are tools that used by Agile Manager. There are tools used by the Agile developer. And there are collaborative tools which are used by the overall Agile team. So not only one person, but the whole team. But what I would want to say is all of these things that are used, a lot of time they are common. So what the Agile Manager will need and what the Agile developer will need would be the same. For example, the team meets every single day into what is called a, if you want, a Scrum meeting, daily Scrum meeting. That daily Scrum meeting have an objective. The objective is we want to identify what have we done last time, which is yesterday. What are we doing today? So our current work. And what are the actual things that are stopping me from achieving my progress? So 3 things I need to look at. What we've done yesterday, what I'm doing today, and what is the blockages. Now, why do we actually go and get these 3 things? Well, because you want to make sure that in an Agile project, you want to make sure you meet regularly with the team. You want to make sure that anything that is blocking you from achieving progress is being resolved immediately and very promptly, because if you don't do that, your project is going to go and be very significantly delayed. So you don't want any of that outcome to go and actually occur. So the tools that get used, for example, the daily sprint and the communication that happens following those daily sprints are used by both the Agile Manager, Agile Developer, and the actual Agile team. Why? Because the Agile Manager needs to know what's wrong and communicate it to everybody. The Agile Manager needs to know what we're working on and communicate it to everybody. And the Agile Developer will need to know what the Agile Manager have communicated so that they're going to go and actually ensure they are working on whatever has been communicated and whatever has been agreed. So all of these things you're going to find in the next couple of slides, you'll find similarity because there are linkages really. And we are actually trying to go and ensure that those tools are, if you want, centralized and are shared by more than one person across the team who is working on delivering what we want to deliver. So I start talking about all of these productivity tools for the Agile team. Now, there are many off-the-shelf tools and softwares. And what they've done is they designed to work with how Agile need to work. Like Agile need to work with Scrum. Agile needs to work with Kanban. You know, Agile needs to work with Scrum and Kanban at the same time. So what happened, you have those tools that basically allow you to go and work using the Agile approach. If I go and talk about an example, I gave you, for instance, the Trello system. The Trello system allows you to go and create all of these Kanbans, allow you to create the backlog, the sprints, the various stages of the sprint if you want, allow you to go and add tasks, allow you to go and add due dates. I also introduced another system, which is the Slack, And what Slack allows all of these communication, engagement, attachment of documents, getting feedback backward and forward, just to name a few. Now, the tools that you use in practice are actually incorporating all of these things that you guys are doing into Kanban and into Trello. In fact, Trello has been bought by a company called, what are they called? I actually forgot.
Atlassian?
Atlassian, sorry, I'm just trying to remember the name, the Australians, I should never forget them. But Atlassian own this company. So what they basically bought, they basically went and they bought this Trello system, which is relating to Kanban. Now, my question here is this, when I go and look at what Atlassian has, Atlassian already has a system called Jira. Have you guys ever used Jira?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jira is a very, very important tool. Jira is basically the tool that everybody in the field goes and use when it comes to project management, especially software development, IT project management. It is very much integrated. It has more than one tools, which is many I'm going to be talking about now. For example, it includes the sprint backlog management. It allows you to see which sprint you're working on. It allows you to go and potentially go and have a sprint release management section. It allows you to go and monitor what is happening in terms of how we are actually tracking into resolving various user stories that are actually uploaded and we are working on as a team at any point of time. They give you all of these burn down charts where you can actually measure the actual progress. So all of these things are integrated into one single tool called Jira, which from what I know is one of the main tools that is basically used by many companies at the moment all around the world in project management. So these tools will allow you, for example, sprint backlog management, the whole backlog of all the user story, of all the features that the client actually is asking me for. I want to go and be able to go and track and understand all of this backlog. I want to be able to go and do planning. So sprint planning, what are we going to be doing? Again, the Jira system allows you to do that because people start, let's say we are working on user story 1, 7, 8, and 9. A person allocated to work and user story 1 will go to that user story, will understand what needs to be done, will start putting all of these tasks that are required to make the sprint. Then we'll start putting all of these timelines, when do we actually expect it to be completed? They then start putting priority of all of these items to go and be created. All of this planning is done within Jira itself. Now, what I want to tell you is in your assessment, you are using Trello. Trello allows you again to create all of these tasks in your user stories, to create all of these timelines and to create priorities and to even assign people to do various jobs. So I need you to bear that in mind when you're actually going to be presenting to me the work you are going to be presenting as part of your group assessment. Capture the daily Scrum meeting. So daily Scrum meeting is about any issues, anything we're working on. So if we know, for example, we are working today on user story 7 and I'm working on developing the login page and developing the logout page, those login page and logout page needs to be tasks that are incorporated inside of my plan, inside of my user story. And the reason why is very simple, because this create the login page and create the logout page are tasks that are going to be consuming time. And if I'm not going to go and incorporate them as part of my actual user story, I basically haven't actually went and shown the time that is needed to go and actually get the job done. And obviously this time needs to be monitored, because otherwise how do we know how we are progressing in comparison to completing those user stories that are available in the sprint? We want to have sprint release management, which is related to all of the sprints that we've already made. We might have a stage called sprint release. And that release is we are now releasing the user stories that are related to sprint 1, which had 4 user stories, and sprint 2, which have 4 user stories. You want to release them. You can actually have all of this available again in the tool. You want to go and have a visual representation of how you are actually working. The burn down chart. shows you, what does it show you? Shows you, okay, let me give you an example. Guys, if I have user story 1, if user story 1 requires 10 hours, and if I already have put on Jira that I have already finished 5 hours out of this 10 hours, how much would the system tells me I still have to finish the project? How long will the system say I still need to have? I repeat the question. 5 hours. So if I already had 10 hours, and if I have 5 hours that I've already done, the system will have like a graph that is going this way, downward, okay? Which tells you we had 10 here, okay? And now it shows you we are here now and we have 5 hours left, and it shows you that between here and here, you are having 5. So this burn down chart shows you how many more hours do I still need to go and finish. So that's why in a user story, you have to create every single task. That's why you have to put how much time does a task is going to take you. Because when you finish a task, you go and put next to it that it's 100% complete or 50% complete or whatever it is, the system will track that information. And from that tracking, the system will give you a graph that tells you how much work is remaining. Because you know how much work is remaining, the system will anticipate when is the project going to be completed. Again, all of this is actually incorporated into tools like Jira. It gives you all of these things. So this is a tool for the Agile Manager, but at the same time, it's also the developer. Developer will need to see the Scrum meeting. Developer will need to see the perspective. They need to see the release. They need to see the graphs. They are as relevant to the actual manager as they are relevant to the developer or to the team. So, but what else do they need? They need to allow various things such as what they call extreme programming, which is one very specific methodological approach of delivering the project. They need to allow collaboration and cooperation development. And that's, you know, if you want the way that you actually go and see, the way that you actually go and see in relation to the Trello, that's what Trello is allowing you to do. What is it allowing you? It's allowing you to collaborate, cooperate, make comments, add fields, get responses. That's what is allowed. But instead of having Trello and Kanban as separate tools, which is not probably the most efficient manner, you could have in Jira just one tool which allows both of these things together. Now you can say, why aren't we using Jira? Well, because obviously with any tools that you go and use for free, there are limitations. And that's why we're using the best options that are available for you guys to be able to go and get the right outcomes. So as you see, there's a lot of similarity between the tools that the developers will use and the tools that the Agile Manager will use. But in summary, there's other things that will be required, which is we want this team to be collaborating. We want them to go and get the job done. Now, talking about collaboration and talking about the tools, when I talk about collaboration, when I talk about the tools, I talk about what is the development team need? What tool do they need? Now, a lot of time we think we are the one who knows best what needs to be done. But in Agile, it's not how it works. In Agile, it's really a people-centric approach of working. It's all about the people. You want to know the requirements, you speak to people. You want to know what software to use, you speak to the people. You want to know which process to use and how to get the job done, you speak to people. So the process and the requirements in the software needs to be in some way influenced by what the people are needing. You need to trust the people. You need to allow them to organize how the work needs to be done. They are the expert, not us. You want to allow them to go create work plans, create resource management plans. Like they're going to manage themselves. I don't need to tell them what to do. Remember, and this is probably relevant. So this what I'm going to say just now might be relevant for your exam. Remember that the manager of a agile team, or the people who work on an agile team, are the one who make the decision, are the one who decide how things need to be done, and don't need to be told what to be doing, which is what I showed you last week between the difference between a leader and a boss. In contrast, project management, traditional project management, if you want, you have a boss, you have a manager who's telling you what to do and often telling you how to go and actually do it. So the approach of thinking is totally different. If you want to really compare the burst methodologies, it is really more about the people in Agile. It's really more about the people in everything we do. It's in terms of people, we need to tell people what we want. In terms of the team people, we need to allow them to do whatever they would like. We need to give them autonomy to decide. And we are going to be sitting there as Agile Scrum Masters, guiding the people if you want. It's just more about guiding them on how we're going to go and get the job done. Now, I know I managed to actually get now many more people from what we've got at the beginning of the lecture today. So I'm going to just take this opportunity to welcome everybody who just joined me or joined me in the last 10-15 minutes. Thank you very much for joining. I very much appreciate all your efforts and your focus on this subject, which is pretty important. Now, this is a question to you guys. I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 minutes to think about it. Okay, but the way I'm going to make you think about that one, I'm going to go and actually, you know what? I'm going to allow you to make a very quick research now. Just go and make your research about how you can prepare for Agile project management. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to make a quick research, and then I would like to start hearing some of your suggestions. So 3 minutes, please start doing this research. Okay, guys, can I have some responses now? How do you think we can prepare for Agile project management? Don't be shy. Give me your suggestions.
First of all, we have to set our vision.
What's that, Mohammed?
First of all, we have to set our vision.
Okay, so we need to set a
strategy
vision.
Meeting.
Okay, we need to create a vision. So what sort of vision we need to actually go and set? What do you think?
What kind of project we're gonna do and what we're gonna do in this project.
Okay, so we're gonna go and set a vision of what sort of things we're gonna do for the project. That's fine. What else? Anybody else? Yeah, go on.
Then we have to make a plan, which way we have to go through.
Okay, that's all relevant, but could you just give me some stuff that are more specific to Agile? Because remember, Agile is not like any normal project management. Like, yes, you need a vision, yes, you need a plan, but I want you to think from an Agile perspective. How do we actually prepare for Agile project management? How do we become Agile? What do you think? Farhana, what do you think?
I came across a few stages in the Agile project management. So in stage 1, they've mentioned identifying the product vision.
Identifying the project vision, yeah, that's fine.
The product vision.
Yeah.
And then the second stage, the product owner creates a product roadmap, which is basically a high level view of the product requirements.
Okay, so there's 2 relevant things. So we basically now we need to create a roadmap. So how are we going to go and get to where we want to achieve? That's correct.
And stage 3, it mentions that creating a release plan.
Yep. When are we going to release all of these things we are working on? That's correct.
Yeah, and stage 4 mentions sprint planning sessions.
Correct. We're going to be talking about this in more details in the coming weeks. So we're going to create sprint planning sessions. Correct.
And then stage 5 has daily meetings.
Daily Scrum meetings. Absolutely.
Stage 6 has sprint review.
We're going to have to go and review all the work that actually been done.
Yeah, and the last stage 7 mentions sprint retrospective.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Guys, could you just get a pen ready now? It's really a good time to get a pen ready. So get a pen ready or get ready to write on your computer. Could you do me a favor, please? Could you just repeat all of those steps to your colleagues now?
Yeah, sure. Stage 1 is product vision.
Yep. Just give it slowly, vision.
Product vision, yeah.
Yep. And guys, this is very different than the project vision, because you are delivering a lot of time a product to the client. So this software is usually in the form of a product you're delivering, and that product has a vision. The vision is in relation to what is that product going to deliver to the clients. Continue.
Stage 2 is the product roadmap.
How are we going to go and achieve that vision? That's what we call the roadmap.
Shall I continue?
Yep.
Stage 3, release plan.
So we're going to go and decide all of this road. What are we going to be releasing at any particular point of time? So in week 8, we're going to deliver this. We're going to release this. In week 16, we're going to release this. You create when is the release going to be happening for various items.
So sorry, what was stage 2? I couldn't write it down.
Stage 2 is about the roadmap. The roadmap is if we're going to go and set this vision, the vision could be we want to go and create an online learning platform. Okay, the roadmap is how we're going to go and actually get to that platform. Well, we're going to have to deliver chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3, chunk 4, chunk 5. And then you're going to go and create a release map. Okay, so in 8 weeks, we're going to release chunks 1 and chunk 2. In 16 weeks, we're going to release chunk 3 and chunk 4. You start getting that release plan for all of these items. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Continue, please.
Right. Stage 4 has the sprint planning.
Yep. And then the sprint planning is where we basically, what I showed you the first slide today is we told you we picked up that user story and we're going to start working on that user story. That's correct. And then we have daily
meetings,
daily Scrum meetings.
Stage 5, yeah.
Absolutely. So that daily Scrum meeting is about, we're going to see what have we done, what are we doing next, and what are the blockages stopping us. And then after that, we finish delivering things. We have after the daily Scrum meeting, we have to go in retrospective.
We have stage 6 is sprint review.
Review, yeah. So what is the review? Review is basically you are getting the client and you're saying, okay, Mr. Client, I did this. I finished sprint 1. I did this. Have a look at it. Is this what you wanted? And the client will come, oh, yeah, but this needs improvement. Yeah, but this needs better. Or they say, oh, yeah, it's awesome. If they say, we would like to go and get something else done, you basically incorporate that and you probably incorporate it in the next sprint you are going to be delivering. Now, the sprint review is when we finish the sprint. After that, we have to go and decide the sprint retrospective. Have we done well? What did we do well? What mistakes have we done during the actual vision? Continue, Farhana.
Yeah, that was the last stage, stage 7, which is sprint retrospective.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about this retrospective. The retrospective is, you often do it in various ways. I'll talk about this in more details when we actually start talking in different lectures. But these steps that we just mentioned, the reason why I asked you to repeat them for Hannah, because I want the guys to try to consider these stages when they are writing their assessment. Okay? So has there been a planning? Has there been a roadmap? Has there been a daily scrum? Like all of these things are relevant to a sprint. So I want you to think about it. Even if they're not applying each of them, at least they basically show that they know the roadmap, they know how we need to go and get and prepare for agile project management, because this is very, very much relevant from that perspective. Thank you very much, Farhana. Now, all of these things talk about how we do from a technical project management perspective. What about from a, if you want, what about from a mentality perspective or a culture perspective? Do we need to change a culture? What do you think? Does the culture also need to be changed? What do you think, guys? Don't be scared, don't be shy. Tell me. What does Agile require to be successful, guys? requires a lot of what?
Communication.
Communication. What else it requires? Communication between who?
Teamwork.
Teamwork, collaboration, teamwork, communication. So all of these things are very much focused on how do we work together. Yeah, flexibility, BJ, that's correct. So you need not to simply get the technical side of project management, but also the culture side of how do we need to work together from an agile perspective. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is very much related to how I taught you very early on. I think lecture 1, I taught you about the technical and non-technical sides of project management when we talk about the traditional project management approach. The same thing applies here. You need the technical way of doing things, and you need the actual practical and collaborative way of doing things together, both of which are important. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we spoke about agile. We said it is iterative. So there's more than one iteration. You see, we do a circle, then we do the circle, we do the circle. Every time we do the circle, we are actually working on a specific user story, which we have identified to be an important user story, something that is important. We spoke about incremental. What is incremental? Can anybody tell me what does incremental project management actually mean? What are we doing here? Can anybody tell me? What is the incremental aspect? What are we incrementally delivering?
We're doing just the part.
We are making the project. Meanwhile, we are having a look at the mistakes we have done.
Correct. There's incremental understanding of mistakes. Yeah. What else?
Updating any applications, adding more options.
Adding more what? More what?
Adding more, like in any applications, we'll get updates.
Adding more features. That's
Yeah.
correct.
A specific word, yeah.
That's a word. Adding more features. We have this feature, then we add this feature, and then we have a ring. Then we add the third feature, and then we have a third ring. And we add, and we add, and we add, and we make sure everything is able to go and work together to get the right outcomes for us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is about the solution evolved through collaboration. So again, I said how? I said we need to work together through collaboration. We need to work together through individuals and interactions. That's really what is important. We need to deliver something that actually works. So we cannot go and say, okay, let's deliver something, but it's not going to work. We can't deliver it to the customer. We need to see what can we actually go and deliver that is going to give to the client something that actually goes and works. We need to have customer collaboration. We work with the customer. We understand what they want. We try to work very hard to fulfill the needs of our clients. We try to respond to change, which will come from our client all the time, rather than actually us going and following the plan. We cannot follow the plan. We have to go and always go and be responding to the changes in an agile project management perspective. So we need to think about all of these things in terms of the characteristics. We need to deliver both the technical sides of project management, or agile management if you want to, as well as we have to go and work on delivering the other aspect that I mentioned here: collaboration, responding to change, flexibility, and so on. So if I go and talk about agile project management, we kind of talk about this various aspects. So if I was to go and link to what Farhana have told me, she said, I need to go and create a vision. And that vision is, what business objective will the product fulfill? What are the product goals? What is the product charter? What is the elevator pitch we're going to go and pitch so that we're going to go and deliver something to the client? We talk about the release. The release is how can we release value? Oh, what's the word? Incrementally. Because we're going to deliver these things, and then these things, and then these things incrementally. What subset of the business objective will each release achieve? Each release will have a goal. What user constituents will be served by the release. So there's going to be, I'm delivering software which could be for more than one type of user. One side may be for marketing, one side will be for accounting, and one side may be for HR. I'm going to go and have to basically deliver and think about all of these things to be able to go and deliver things that basically they need to go and be delivered. So if I was to go and actually think about it from this perspective, we are trying to go and deliver big capabilities, which is the big stories that the clients actually will need to go and get delivered. And we are creating what Farhana told me about step 2 and step 3. We are creating a release roadmap and a release plan. So this is really relating to the steps that Farhana had mentioned. 1, vision, 2, roadmap, 3, we're speaking about the release. Then we speak about the sprint. What are we going to do during sprint? During sprint, we are going to go and work on very specific aspects relating to that sprint. So we're going to go and choose very specific user stories to go and work on at any point of time. What are we going to actually work on and build exactly? How will this iteration moves us towards a release objective that we have specified under the release section? So we're going to need to go and create this sprint planning, which is step 4 that Farhana went and mentioned. We're going to have to go and create all of these tasks. We're going to have to go and create this, if you want, the daily Scrum meetings to be able to go and get things done. All of these things are relevant. And in that sprint, we're going to make the review, and we're going to also make the retrospective. So if you go and think, you know, step 1 is a product/project that Farhana mentioned. Step 2 and 3 are in the release. And step 4 to 6 are basically the remaining, to 7 are the remaining items we are trying to go and actually go and deliver. Now, this sprint is based on this very, very small circle. What is it based on? It's based on the backlog. Can anybody please remind me what is a backlog? What's a backlog? It's a list of what?
List of requirements.
List of requirements or list of features that I'm actually trying to deliver. How am I writing those requirements? In what format? In the format of a?
There are 3 things. What should have to be done, by whom, and how it should be done.
And what is that called? Of a what? We're writing the requirements in the form of a user story.
User stories.
Okay, in traditional project management, we're collecting requirements, not necessarily writing it in the form of a user story. The form of a user story we're referring to is more related to how we do things in an agile perspective. So what are we really doing, guys, is we're talking about, you know, the smallest part. What user or stakeholder need will this very specific story serve? How will the story specifically look? How will it behave? How will we know if it has been completed? This is really all the details about each user story and all the details about how do we ensure we have acceptance tests. Oh, sorry, guys, can I ask you a question? Have you heard of this before? Have you heard of this before? Did we speak about this last week?
Yes.
What did we speak? When did we speak about it last week? Come on, guys, we've done it together last week. Not in the lecture. You've done something like this. What was it?
The acceptance criteria.
Acceptance criteria. I've asked you to write it. Now, the best way to write the acceptance criteria is like this. If user was to do this, this will happen. If user is to go and log into the page and create an account details, he should be able to go and get the reports and do whatever he would like on the actual software. If something will happen, that's really the acceptance criteria you try to go and actually incorporate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have about the Agile Project Charter. We have all of this vision. Okay, the vision. Why are we doing this project? What is the purpose? What's the reason why this project needs to be done? It's very, very important to go and take that into perspective. Why are we doing the project? Mission is the what of the project. It states what will be done. So not why we're doing it, what are we going to go and be doing to achieve the project's higher purpose. The success criteria is the tests, the management tests that describe the effects outside the solution. So when we finish the solution, what is the outcome? What will we be able to go and see after the solution has been completed and delivered? Additional stuff to consider, the work practices. How are we going to plan? How are we going to estimate? How are we going to define something as completed? How are we going to track progress? How are we going to test what we're actually delivering in development? All of these are relevant work practices. Continuous integration. Integration time limits. So if I'm going to go and say I'm going to be integrating sprint, release 1 and release 2 together, how do we actually integrate these things together? When is the actual timeline where we're going to go and integrate things together? How are we going to break the build? So we're going to break it into sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, and so on. How are we going to do the code checking? And the code checking, for example, a lot of time is done through what we call paired programming. It's like 2 people sitting together and they're working on a programming. One person write, the other person look at the code and tells them what they're doing wrong and how they can improve it. And then the other person writes and the person next to him tells them the same thing. What is wrong? What do you need to do? How do we go and fix it? Who owned the code? How are we going to get the documentation delivered? All of these, again, are relevant. Now, we also need to talk about iterative development. So every iteration will do something. And incremental, because every iteration, we're adding something extra to the development process to add value. So it's an iteration cycle and it's a deployment cycle. We're going to keep on deploying and giving the client what we have actually worked on delivering. Now, it is probably worthwhile to go and look at your assessment and think, well, should I include a vision as part of my group assessment? What is the name of my project? What's the product called? Who is it for? In your instance, it's for the government. When will it be done by? What will it do? What will it not do? What benefits your business gets from doing this? What benefits the consumer gets from doing this? There's going to be benefits for each parties that are actually involved in one very specific outcomes. Now, one thing that I've noticed in some review that I've done is, you need to think about the details. You want to go and give me a plan. I've said it before. You cannot go and give me a plan if the plan doesn't, for example, go and incorporate people, when they're going to be working, who's going to be working. You cannot go and give me a budget if you haven't thought about how much will the Scrum Master get, how much will the Agile developer get, how much will the product analyst or product owner get, because all of these are relevant. And you need to go and show me that you've done some research to be able to go and indicate that that something, if you want, something as a minimum has been considered. Like you've researched it, you've found information, you've actually applying and using that information as part of your work to show me that your budget is relevant, not something that is high level. What benefit your business gets from doing this? Now, in this assessment, you are the consulting company who is going to be delivering something. As a consulting company, you will get money. It's not for free. Nobody does a project for free. So if you are consulting and delivering something to the client, what are you actually getting? How much money is coming for you? What benefits the consumer gets by using it? Who is the consumer? Well, you guys last week indicated so many potential application users. You get people who want to go and be the normal public. You indicated people who might be hospital staff. You indicated there could be government departments, personnel. All of this is relevant. So what are they going to get? What is each party going to be able to get and achieve from using that specific application? You need to write your vision in a way that anybody could understand it. Everybody will read it, will understand what are we trying to go and deliver. We don't do that. We haven't done our job very much well. We need to build the project team. Now we need to build whole teams. You can tell me, what is a whole team? Well, a whole team is one where the team is complete. The team can by itself get the whole job done. The team have all the skills that are going to be needed to get the job done. If there's testing people, if there's database people, if there's user interface people, whoever they are, the team have everybody that is needed to go and get the job done. Second thing is, we need to have generalizing specialists. What is a generalizing specialist? It's people who have, one or more technical specialty. Someone have, for example, project management and Java programming. Somebody have database administration and project management. So you need to basically go and identify things that are going to be appropriate and to be relevant. Not simply that. You also need to try to continue developing the technical skills and specialties that are available in your team. Because you might need to go and start referring to new work and new approaches of doing things that are relevant to be able to go and get the job done. So seek to go and develop new skills. Seek to find new ideas. Seek to find all of these new specialties, all of which are relevant to go and get the job done. Now, another thing about the agile teams is agile teams are stable. Don't change them. Don't keep on changing the structure. You change it, you change a team, you change how they work, it will negatively influence the way the project is going to be progressing. People need to have the same approach of doing things, the standard way of doing things. Why? It's very simple. If I tell you do the same thing over and over and over again, by using the same process, you are becoming much, much more available to be able to go and get the job done. So that's one things we would like to go and talk about. Now, so don't change the structure. Strive to keep teams stable, a goal easier to achieve using generalizing specialists, which is, as I said, people who actually have more than one skill available to be able to go and get the job done. Now, we need to create a product backlog. Now, can anybody tell me in one sentence, what is a product backlog? One sentence, what is a product backlog?
The backlog is just like a to-do list.
The to-do list? Okay. Give me a bit more. That's correct, but give me a bit more.
Like what feature you want to add or you are working on.
Give me the language of a agile system. It's a list of what?
List of, I think so. It's a list of.
It's a list of what?
So it's a list of new features.
Yeah,
features?
which is called what?
I'll
accept it. It's a list of new features. Continue. What else after that?
Making some changes to the existing features, fixing problems, change of infrastructure or activities.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to stop you for a second because you went a bit beyond. It's a list of features that are written in the form of user stories. Okay? We're writing those features in the form of user stories for us to be able to go and deliver. That's really what it is. That's really what the backlog. It is a to-do list of features that we are writing in the form of user stories. Does that make sense? Does that make
Yes,
sense,
sir.
guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to write all of this backlog. Okay, the backlog is, if you want, it is replacing the traditional way of us going and creating detailed requirements at the beginning of the project. Now, that doesn't mean we are not going to understand requirements. We do understand requirements, but we start planning how we do things in more details after we choose which requirement or which user story we are going to be working on. So initially, the user story would be very high level. After we pick up that user story and we start working on it, we'll be able to start getting much more details to be able to go and get the job done. So it is replacing the traditional detailed requirement specific approach of collecting items to create a backlog. Backlog is like a shopping list of all the ideas that are meaningful for the business to go and get things done. It's the items on the backlog are always user-centric. So we are looking what the client would like us to go and deliver for them. It's really summary of what needs to be delivered for the client. You know, if we think about it in relation to 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. But before I continue talking about those steps, I'm going to give you 10 minutes break, and then we'll be able to continue after this 10 minutes breaks. Do you have any questions before your break? So ladies and gentlemen, we spoke about the product backlog. Well, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to go and first define the primary functionality. So it's about to produce a summary list of what is needed to produce the actual project vision. So that's, you know, if you want the summary of the main things we needed to go and deliver the project vision. Think about not simply the main things we want to deliver, but also think about each step of the customer journey to produce a workflow. So if we say we want to go and actually deliver a e-learning study system like Moodle, what you guys use, you might go and say, all right, to be able to get that system, what do we need to go and do? We go and think, okay, we need to go and create a login page. We need to go and create a main page. We need to go and create a, I don't know, grade page. We need to go and create a subject page. We go and actually talk about all of these main things, summary of what we are going to be producing. If we say we are going to be creating, for instance, a login page or a subject page, you're going to need to ask, okay, let's go and talk about the steps, each step and the customer journey across that subject page. What are they going to do? Like they're going to go and load the materials, put a video, add the link, change the color, put announcements. There's all of these things in a journey of what a person who's going to be using that system is going to go and have. You basically produce that, if you want, features groups. So what are the main group of features? One feature may be reporting. One feature may be, I don't know, inserting of videos. One feature might be incorporating of text, you know, whatever features we would like to go and have. So once the workflow is mapped, which is a workflow in step 1, we gather together the ideas about what is actually done with each step in the journey. So if we're going to go and talk about the video, you know, what are we doing about loading the video? Okay, we're going to go and follow very specific steps. We're going to go and talk about that journey. We add together all of these items to deliver the functionality of the steps, and we basically put them as what we call a feature group. So if you want, there might be 20 various features in various groups. A feature might be reporting, a feature might be loading items, a feature might be recording videos, a feature might be incorporating external links to various courses, all of these features. So what you do, you put all of these various feature categories and you focus on all of these features we're going to be delivering and the steps we're going to be delivering in each of these various feature categories. Now, we went and we put all of these categories of features. That's great. But which feature is more important than the other feature? That's really all about the prioritization. We're going to look at all of those features in the system and say, this feature is more important than this feature, or this feature is more important. So you basically put a order of which features are basically more important than other features. Finally, you're going to decide your first delivery. The first delivery is, what are you going to be working? Which features are you going to be working in the first system you are going to be delivering? And for you to be able to choose the features you are going to actually be delivering and working on, they usually refer to what we call a minimum viable product or the minimum viable release. Like if you want to go and deliver something that the client is going to be able to use, you're going to go and have to go and think about all of those features, which one are the most important. If I combine these together, would I have a product that is the client will be able to use and potentially will be able to go and supply to our clients to be able to go and use if that's who we're actually going and delivering that system for. So you need to combine all of these main features. You're going to decide which of these are important to create the minimum viable product that I am going to be releasing for the client to be able to go and use. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go and decide how we're going to go and actually accept what has been done. How do we know when the work is done? To work efficiently, we need to know when do we need to stop. If we don't stop, then it's an issue. You continue working on something that actually does not add value. So we need to think about that. What are the boundaries of the work? What's in and what's out? How much do we do for the work to be accepted? For a user story to be truly completed, we need to go and read the acceptance criteria which you guys are delivering for your assessment. They are the prerequisites that have to be met for a story to be assessed as having been completed. Acceptance criteria can take many forms. It could be simple conditions of satisfaction all the way through to rigorous and exact checks. We can see we need to check that this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. But the simple way you can write an acceptance criteria is in a simple binary statement, plain language. If the user is able to log in on the system and create an account, then we consider this user story to have been completed. That is what we call about the simple binary statement. If this happens, then that happens. That's an approach you can go and use to decide whether a user story is complete. Now, there are risks and expectations management that needs to be managed throughout various agile environments. Don't try to change and introduce new practices, okay? Don't deviate. If you've tested something and you know it works well, don't change. Because many people try to change very quickly. Now, if you change very quickly, you're not sticking to what you basically know it works and know it's the best way for you to go and actually get something done, then you're going to have an issue. Stay with what works for you. If the changes don't work, then you drop them. But stick with something that you know works first and introduce changes as slowly as you can. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You cannot have bad communication. Bad communication between the team members, bad communication with the client means we're not getting things done correctly. If we don't understand what the client wants, we're not getting things done. Leaving information out, for example, not telling the manager there is a problem with one of the things we're trying to deliver, leaving it out is as bad as misleading people or giving them bad information. You hiding relevant information that people need to go and bear in mind and deliver. Use the backlog as a focus for regularly having the right conversation. There's something unclear in the backlog. The user story, we don't know what it is. Go and ask. Get the talking happening. We need to avoid at all costs large work items. Large work items are hard to understand and are hard to deliver. That's why in an agile environment, you actually break down the items into smaller, manageable chunks. Why do we do that? Because smaller, manageable chunks will ensure at any point of time that we are actually simply doing what is right. We basically could compare how we're progressing along various point of time. So avoid things that are large. What you will notice all the time, if you are delivering something that is large, if you come to the actual project team and you tell them, this is a user story, and that user story is actually very big and it's not suited to what we want to do, what's going to happen is you will find out that the team who is working to develop that user story will say, we're not going to deliver that. They're going to say, let's go. This is user story, split it into 2 user stories. And then basically based on that, you'll be able to go and get a smaller chunk of work that is easy, more manageable for us to be able to go and deliver. Keep talking to everybody. The best way to manage risk is to always have conversation. Let people around you talk. That's why you do daily Scrum meeting, because people every day have the chance to go and talk. How do they talk? They talk, they engage with you. They tell you what have they done last week. They tell you what are they doing today. They tell you any risks they are experiencing. Very relevant, very important information, because without knowing what's not working, you won't be able to go and rectify the problems and minimize any potential risk in an agile project. We need to manage a backlog. The backlog is the features. The backlog is a foundation. The backlog needs to be very, very good. The backlog, if it's not well managed, it's going to go bad very quickly. If we're going to start putting the wrong features, or we don't prioritize the features correctly, we'll be working on delivering something that is not meeting the client needs. It is a breathing document. It requires your constant attention. You need to ensure you are getting the right outcome delivered. It helps the team. It helps everybody involved in that project to understand what is coming up next. It helps communicate. It helps manage expectations. It helps reduce risk. If somebody comes and tells you, we would like you to go and do user story 8, 9, and 11, and you look at it and you say, you know, user story 11 is very, very big. We cannot do all of these together. We could probably do 2 of them. That's what we need to go and focus and get the job done. Keep the backlog up to date. If there's a new change, introduce it. At the start of the project, the backlog is usually the full of the functional requirements and features written in a user story. But as we move along with the project, you need to bear in mind that the actual backlog will not simply have features. We'll have other stuff. We'll have a bug, fault. We'll have a non-functional requirement, for example, relating to documentation. We'll have any potential enhancements that you might have found. We'll have new feature requests, which is more than the original requirements that you've went and identified. Write them all down, blend them with everything else, order them by the business value, which one is the most important, and ensure you work on them accordingly. Now, guys, do you know what a Kanban is? What's a Kanban? Have you guys done any Kanban?
Kanban, sir. What's a Kanban?
I'm asking, what is a Kanban? Have you guys done any Kanban?
It's
No,
a translation.
Sir. It's a translation from Japanese.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, you've done it definitely. Guys, who basically knows where they've done a Kanban? What are you guys doing on Trello?
We are doing the work related to our project, communicating through each other.
So what are you putting on Trello? Not on Slack, on Trello. What are you putting on Trello?
The storyboard.
Storyboard. What stuff do you have on that storyboard? We have on the left-hand side, what do we have? What's the first thing in the storyboard, guys? What do you put there?
The backlog, product backlog.
To put the backlog, which is all the user stories. Then what do you do? Any idea?
No, the sprints.
Then you put the sprints. And each sprint, does it have stages in it?
Yeah.
It has various stages. So can you tell me about some potential steps in the stages? What might be in the actual stages?
The things which we have to do.
The things we have to do, that's correct. And
which are in progress and the tasks
yeah,
which we have already completed.
So to do, progress, in progress, and done. That's very, very correct. Well done, Saida. Now, all of these things you guys are putting in the actual Trello, okay? That is what is called a Kanban board. So what I'm talking about now is what you guys are doing for your assignment. Kanban translate to a signboard or billboard. It started live. It's basically started live as a scheduling system in Toyota motor industry, and it's now one of the fastest growing areas that gets used in the agile market. Why? It's very easy to understand. It's very simple. It pretty much costs you almost nothing to be able to get it done. It creates a lot of visibility. It basically allows all the people to go and see the full scale of the project, see the workload, manage your workload, everything through that signboard or billboard that they actually go and have a look at any point of time. It's really an excellent way of delivering agile projects by itself. And when I talk about the Kanban board, it could be something you go and create on a system, or it could be something you go and create as a pen and a paper. They both works. It's whatever works for you in your approach you'll be able to go and incorporate. The heart of the Kanban system is the concept that everything starts as to do and ends as done. So you think about it on your assessment. All of these backlog items are items that we need to do. Towards the end, these items become items that are done. It is all about building an effective way of getting from A to Z. What is A? A to Z is really the vision we said we would like to go and deliver in our project. Kanban encourages team to begin with the current status quo. What is the current status quo? The current status quo is how things go and get delivered. So we start with how things get delivered at the moment, and we build on it. How do we build on it? Well, we speak to people around us. We get them to go and tell us what they recommend we do. Through collaboration, through consensus, we start basically making changes. We start basically getting people more enthusiastic to go and work and start adapting Kanban in the organization. 3 things to actually go and sum up the whole Kanban fundamentals. Start with what you do. That's 1. 2, agree to pursue incremental change, evolutionary change. Why? Because it's going to go and be evolution through the requirements that are basically coming from the clients at any point of time. 3, respect the current process, respect the current roles, respect the responsibilities, and respect the titles. In other ways, if currently we are following a process and that is not the most suited and most appropriate process, we can bear that in mind. We can basically identify that we need to find a better approach for us to work. But at this stage, that is how we are working. That is the best approach. And we need to continue working with this approach at this point of time to be able to get the job done. 5 key steps in implementing Kanban. First of all, they need to be a visual workflow. Kick off with a visual presentation of the flow of work going from to do to done. Now guys, could you tell me how you're doing this visual workflow in your Kanban system? What are you doing first? you told me we're doing the product backlog. Then you told me we're going to put the sprints. Then you told me in each sprint you're putting stages. Then maybe after sprint 1 and sprint 2, you might be putting a release of sprint 1 and sprint 2. That is a visual representation. Now, many prefer to put, the flow of work going from to do to done. Some people basically not have to do and done, have also something that is in progress. Some people add different steps such as planning, designing, drafting, building, testing, and deploying. Everybody do it differently. It is your job to go and decide what is the most appropriate manner to go and use, taking into perspective all of these stages that might be relevant from your IT project management perspective. Second thing to bear in mind is when you're putting work in progress, you are limiting how many items go in the work in progress. Why? Because the more items allowed to go in the work in progress, these items might actually go and might creating blockages. So maybe people would say, let me just go and finish 99% or 90% of a user story, but let me not worry about the last 10%. What's going to happen is you're going to keep all of these 10 user stories or whatever, 5 user stories that are 90% complete, but they're not complete as yet. You can't do that. The Kanban says, let's limit how many work in progress. If you have that limit, you cannot get anything else to work on before you finish what you're working on at any point of time. Manage a flow of work. The aim is for us to achieve a fast, a smooth movement from to do to done. It means that we need to have an efficient process. It means we need to go at any point of time to maximize value as quick as possible. An important add-on for it is to be repeatable and consistent. We're going to keep on repeating the step. We're going to keep on doing things consistently, because with repeatability, with consistently, we basically learn to become better and better on how we do things. And basically, we manage a flow of work and we deliver the value that the client is actually wanting. 4, make the process explicit. Make everybody know how things work and how the process gets delivered. With a common understanding, it's easier to impartially discuss issues. If there's a problem, say, we said this is supposed to work this way. It is not working this way, so we need to go and bear in mind, because it's going to be creating an issue. We don't need to work this way. We need to create a totally different approach of working. There must be a natural checkpoint at each step, especially towards the end, to be able to ensure that we're following the rules. We're moving from one area to another area by following the process as it is expected. Finally, improve collaboratively. Don't go and say we have a better way of working or I have a better way of working. Go and tell everybody to go and actually share their approach of how they go and are getting things to go and deliver. Work in progress plays, if you want, key role on sparking discussions by forcing the team to focus on blockers, anything that is blocking progress, especially in the work in progress. We're going to say, okay, let's stop for a second. Let's collaboratively go to solve that problem. Let's go and collaboratively finding something that is actually inhibiting my progress and finding and taking the actions that is required to be able to go and solve that. Now, Kanban is great for getting off to a low risk, zero cost, and agile fast start. Like it's actually not zero cost, but it's very, very low cost. Like getting a papers and putting some sheets and getting sticky notes. It costs you barely nothing, really. But it's very, very good if you would like to go and minimize risk, be very quick, be agile, and not have much cost. It is important to go and pin down existing workflows and spotting glaring errors, so you can see them very quickly. It is good for controlling multiple pieces of unconnected work, because you're going to have to work on sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. These are very totally different features. They're not very much connected, and a lot of times it's basically helping to go and connect all of those pieces of work. It helps you keep the numbers of jobs in play acceptable level. You're not doing way too much. You're not doing way too little. It helps you to get the team into an agile way of thinking. Let's go, let's work efficiently. That's the agile way. That's the agile approach. We could change. We could introduce various things. We could speak to the client. It helps you getting all of these done through Kanban. So if I go and start telling you about Kanban more about how do we build it, well, usually you have to do, in progress, and done. But as I said earlier, you might have other things. You might have other stages. You might have different names of those stages. But in summary, that's what you'll see in a Kanban board. Now, other options on the Kanban boards, we basically start with ideas if you want. We might have a section for ideas. Maybe we're going to do that. Or maybe not stage, we're going to do that. You might have an extra ideas section. Usually you have to do or in progress. You have in progress and you have done, which is three various things. Simply to do, what are we going to be doing? In progress, what are we working on now? And done, what have we actually went and completed? I guess the question now is, I said, it doesn't cost you very much to get a Kanban getting and ready to go and work. So what do? Well, get 2 roles. Imagine, that's one. Imagine get 2 roles, 3 meters by 1 meters, for example. You have all of this. You build it 3 by 1. You put 2, 3 by 1. You put 1 here and 1 next to it. And then what you do, you get a 50 pack of multicolored 6 by 4 inch cards and 6 stripe pens. So you might have, let's say, a pen, and you might have a small card like that big. And for this card, you'll be able to write on it the user story. What do I want to work? You'll write your user story on this paper. We bought the rolls, we bought the sticky notes, we bought the pen. We then go to step 2, identify a central or prominent wall in your whole area, and you go and actually put the space, you put these 2 items next to each other. So you load the 2 strips of Brita, felt length, one directly above the each other, or I would say usually if it's 3 by 1, I would usually put them next to each other. You divide the resulting 6 by 2 meters in 4 columns. So if I had this and another one, I'll put column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, or any other columns depending on what sort of stages I would like to go and include. At the top of each column, this is column, this is column. On top here, I have this, ideas, to do, in progress, done, develop, test, whatever I put all of these things on these various items or various stages that I go and develop. Leave plenty of space to expand and adjust the number of columns to match steps in the workflow, because you might add steps, you might reduce steps. Write up the tasks on the card. So if we're saying to do here, I might finish this and put the sticky notes here of whatever I need to be done. I put another sticky note here, another sticky note here, another sticky note here, another sticky note here, and so on. Shuffle around the cards in the column, in the to-do column, until they are sensible sequence. So the sequence is, for example, you might think, what is the highest priority and what is the lowest priority? That could be your sequence. The sequence could be, what are the items that I need to do together combined to be able to go and get a product that is working to go and deliver to my clients. So this is the sort of things you need to go and bear in mind. And finally, if you've done this, you're really ready to go. It's not going to go and cost you much. So you can see, using this small example, that you can really be set up and ready in Kanban by probably less than $50. Very easy, very simple. You can even do it yourself in your assignment if you want at home. Create one board like that and start working on it. But you don't need to create one manually. I gave you already Trello that gives you all of that information. Does that make sense? Are we clear? Do you understand the step by step? Okay. Alrighty, I have some responses. I'm going to assume everybody else is okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Now, building a backlog of work, the heart of the actual Kanban is a to-do list. The to-do list is your backlog. That's a list of features. All work is of similar size. That's what I've spoke earlier. It is better to have smaller stories of roughly equal size. If there's a large piece of work, we split it into smaller sizes, packages that basically you could go and incorporate and you can use as part of your workflow. When you go and create smaller chunks, it is basically easier for you to be able to go and predict what sort of outcomes you would like to go and do, predict how long the cycle is going to take, and predict, you know, the start and your end times of all of these cycles. It is really comparing like for like. If this item is of similar size to this item, is of similar size to this item, when we go and compare our progress throughout the sprint, we are comparing the same things together. But you're not doing sometimes big stuff, sometimes small stuff, sometimes medium stuff. You're consistently working on delivering things that are of similar sizes. The backlog, you must refine it regularly. It's basically very dynamic. It tends to actually go and depend on what we're speaking to the clients at any point of time. We speak to them. It's in a support environment. If you're supporting people, every time people might call, you might go and change the backlog every single day. In a development environment, you might actually not change it every day, but you will still change it very, very regularly. But it is not unusual for your actual Kanban backlog, in other words, a backlog and the list of features shown on the Kanban board, it is not unusual for it to keep on changing on a daily basis. It's very normal. It does happen because as you progress in the actual project, the list of features that the client is looking for keeps on changing. Now, jobs that are on the backlog, they're not pushed. Nobody could say to the team, here it is, go and take this and work on it. That's not how it works. The way that it works is the team will come in, we'll look at all of these backlog items, we'll look at the priority, we'll read out each of them. Say, okay, do I have enough information to accept the highest priority backlogs? Yeah. How many of these stories on the backlog can I go and deliver? I could probably do 5 of them. I could probably do 4 of them. You speak to those people. They decide how many they can work on at any point of time. You don't tell them what they work on because remember, it is the team who decide what needs to be done. It is a team who decide how things needs to be done. So what do? You give them that freedom to decide what they're going to work on at any point of time. You support them, and eventually they will choose what they need to be working on at any point of time based on what is of the most important priority for our clients. Now, once all the ideas are set up through the to-do list, the backlog, and so on, the next step is to get them into a sensible sequence. I spoke about that earlier. The backlog is hardly alphabetical. A core concept with all Agile is we need to go and be driven by what value the business wants. So we look, which one is the most priority? Which one is the business going to deliver the maximum value to be able to go and get to the client? Work that delivers the most value gets launched before everything else that is providing very little benefits for our clients. There are 5 simple steps for deciding the priorities. 1, we can rationalize the backlog into standard size work packages, so they're very similar in size. 2, we assign a business value for each of these. So 1 could be low value, 10 would be high value user story. 3, we assign a cost of delivering rating. So things that's going to cost me the maximum is going to be the 1, for example. Things that's going to be cheapest, I might give it to 5. And then we're going to basically see which, 10, if I say the value is 10 and the cost is 5, that's mean the cheapest. 10 times 5 equals 50. This project or this user story is going to give me much more value than another user story. So you basically rate your value rate, your actual cost, and you try based on that to identify which user stories you are going to be working on. So you calculate the business value, multiply cost, and sequence the result into the order you basically find appropriate. Review and apply common sense in choosing what you are going to be working on at any point of time. Now, we need to control the work in progress all the time. What are we working on? And that's where I spoke earlier about we need to put a limit to how many items we're working on at any point of time. We cannot say, but you know, we can get more items to be work in progress. No, you can't say that. You're going to say, I'm going to stop for a second. I know I can't get any more items working on at the moment. I know they're stuck in a work in progress. Let's stop there. Let's get the individuals and the teams to collectively go and work together to go and get the job done. A maximum, usually a lot of time, of 3 things in progress per person is usually allowed. It helps us avoid ending up with all of this work that is 99% complete, but cannot be released to the client because it is not complete. If there's a problem and if there's a difficult task that is stopping a team from progressing towards a goal, what will happen is we will force everybody to stop working and to go and solve the problems that are resulting in a task being done 99%, not 100%. We always improve the process. We always go and work naturally. So control the process improvement is an important part of the Kanban method. And the most part, it basically happens naturally. People, like I'll be working, I find something to improve, say, we should do this. We talk about it, we agree, and we'll get it done accordingly. The work in progress limit forces the teams to be introspective when necessary and look at what's clogging up the production process. This is stopping it. Let's go and kill it straight away and get progress happening. In summary, any agile, you're going to start with a vision, very clear, anybody could understand. The center is business value. When you develop the value to the client, love the backlog, develop a top quality backlog with a rock solid stories that everybody could understand. Pin down the minimum viable product we're going to go and deliver to the client. Because if we're going to deliver something that is viable, everything that adds value, that's really what we need to go and get to. Always works out the acceptance criteria up front. Start with knowing from the beginning, what are we trying to go and deliver at the end? If the acceptance criteria can't be met, then you haven't delivered what that user story needs to deliver. We spoke about the Kanban. It's the heart of the operation. We need to start visualization in the workflow. I gave you an example of how you could do it. Don't put too many items in the work in progress for maximizing efficiency. Do not let the simplicity think it's not a powerful tool. It's simple, but it's very powerful. Everybody could see what's happening at any point of time. It will support progress. If there's anything blocking progress, you'll deal with it straight away. Kanban can be a final destination or simply a stepping stone for something much bigger. So you could say, I'm going to do everything via Kanban. You can say, you know, Kanban is good, but I'm going to go and incorporate so many other things with Kanban to get the job done and implementing detailed agile project management. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions? Dear students, any questions? Okay, guys, review the lecture slides, tutorial materials, and notes taken. Read chapter 4. Continue working on the group assessment. So today in the tutorial, we're going to continue working on these groups. I'm going to continue putting you into the groups. I please ask you to make sure at the start of the tutorial you're there, because that will make it easier for me to allocate your groups very, very quickly and put you into your own areas to go and work together. And please, guys, we need a lot of effort. You know, this assignment is basically getting to be due soon. We're week 9 today. So in 2 weeks, we're going to go and have to go and deliver the work. Details is expected. It's a very, very big assignment, and it's an assignment that is worth a lot of marks, and it requires a lot of collaboration. One thing I'm going to go and talk about is if you guys are going to be using a theory in your assessment, don't just rely on, for every idea, you use one reference. This concept of every idea, one reference, is the concept of undergraduate study. We are postgraduate. Postgraduate, to make an idea about something, such as about planning or risk management or whatever, you incorporate more than one author from the literature and you link them together to make a point. So please make sure you bear that in mind to be able to go and get that job done. Mohammed, we haven't done attendance yet, but in the tutorial you can check if your attendance hasn't been done, and then we'll be able to discuss it towards the end. But you could actually check it out later, because I usually do it in between the classes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very much and very, very kindly for all your effort and all your time. I wish you a great day.